Until recently, more human beings have flown to the moon than have dived to the deepest spot on Earth.
The Puerto Rico Trench is one of the least understood places on Earth, but nothing prepared the research team for what their deep-sea drone recorded during its last descent.
How deep can you go?
We can go to 20,000 feet, which is 98% of the world's ocean.
The footage did not show empty terrain. It showed rapid movement from an unidentified source, irregular signals that matched no known marine pattern, and a light response that appeared deliberate. The crew reviewed the data in silence and came to a startling conclusion. Something in the trench detected the drone first. The trench humanity tried to forget. Something dangerous was happening in the Atlantic long before anyone tried to examine it. The Puerto Rico Trench remained ignored for decades because most scientists believed it was only a zone of extreme pressure that could destroy any submersible sent into it. That assumption kept funding away and pushed researchers toward safer, more predictable sites like the Mariana Trench. The Puerto Rico Trench was nearly as deep and far more unstable, yet it stayed untouched. Experts feared the environment. They never considered the possibility that the real threat was something inside it. The Puerto Rico Trench stretches for more than 500 miles across the Atlantic. Its deepest point reaches over 5.2 miles down, making it the lowest location in the entire ocean on this side of the world. The trench exists because of the movement of two major sections of the Earth's crust. One is the North American plate, and the other is the Caribbean plate. These plates do not sit still. They move slowly, but constantly, and the edge between them runs directly through this region. As the plates move, they press together, grind, and sometimes slide past one another. The pressure between them builds over time until the plates stop moving completely. This locked position can last for years. Eventually, the pressure becomes too strong for the rock to hold. When the plates finally shift, the release sends powerful energy upward. This energy becomes an earthquake. Some earthquakes in this zone are small and go unnoticed. Others can be strong enough to break roads, damage buildings, or cause landslides. The earthquake in Puerto Rico in 1918 demonstrated how serious this region can be. The shaking triggered a large tsunami that struck the coast and caused major destruction. That single event proved that the trench can affect areas far beyond its deepest point. The long years of avoidance created a large gap in scientific knowledge. New seismic readings revealed strange patterns that made no sense. Deep rumbles echoed through the water with no clear source. Entire sections of the trench floor looked uncharted and confused many experts. These signs proved that the trench was not a simple deep hole in the ground. It was a living system that moved and changed with a level of activity that experts could not match with other similar ocean regions. In time, the mystery grew too large to ignore. New technology appeared and allowed safer travel into extreme depths. The equipment could survive crushing pressure and record the smallest details. Curiosity pushed scientists forward because they wanted to understand why this place behaved in such a strange way. When the first serious mapping missions entered the trench during the early 2000s, they found more than new depth readings. They found evidence that the floor of the Atlantic hid a set of problems that did not match anything they had studied before. The seafloor that shouldn't exist. The moment scientists used advanced sonar for a complete survey, they realized they were facing a landscape far more violent than anyone expected. The maps showed a twisted and broken world deep beneath the waves. Sharp ridges rose from the darkness like jagged knuckles made of stone. Cliffs plunged at angles that did not seem natural or safe. Entire sections looked freshly ripped apart. The ground appeared as if it had shifted only days before the scans were taken. This discovery shocked every expert who reviewed the data because nothing in the Atlantic had ever revealed such brutal and recent geological damage. The most frightening detail came from a massive fault system that ran beside the trench. Scientists noticed that it behaved in a way similar to the well-known strike-slip fault in California that produces large and destructive earthquakes. The danger near Puerto Rico was far worse because this fault was buried under miles of deep water instead of solid ground. This meant enormous pressure could build inside it without anyone noticing. One major slip could unleash a violent shock beneath the northern coast of Puerto Rico. That single event could push huge walls of seawater across the ocean and create tsunamis that would travel far beyond the Caribbean. The danger grew clearer as the teams mapped deeper parts of the trench. They found sharp and unusual formations that seemed far too new for an area believed to rest quietly between major earthquakes. They also discovered signs of underwater landslides much larger than any previously recorded in the Atlantic. These landslides involved huge amounts of rock and heavy sediment that must have collapsed in the deep without producing signals strong enough to reach the surface. This proved that the trench was releasing violent energy in ways that normal scientific tools could not detect. Researchers also found cracks and depressions that did not match common tectonic patterns. Some cracks appeared jagged and chaotic, as if the ground had been pulled apart by sudden force. Other cracks formed straight lines that looked far too perfect for a place shaped by random motion. The deeper the mapping missions went, the more irregular and confusing shapes appeared. It began to feel as if something inside the trench was changing the ground from within in ways that did not match any known geological system. These discoveries forced scientists to question everything they believed about this part of the Atlantic. The region did not behave like a simple subduction zone. It behaved like a mixture of many different tectonic systems. One part pulled downward, another part slid sideways, a third part behaved in a way no expert could identify. The trench felt unstable, unpredictable, and active in ways that made researchers uneasy. But even though the structural discoveries were dramatic, they only revealed the first layer of the mystery. Life where life shouldn't be. Most experts believed the Puerto Rico Trench would hold only a few simple forms of life. Survival at these depths demands extreme adaptations and brutal endurance. Many biologists doubted anything complex could exist in a place that cold and hostile. They found out how wrong they were wrong the moment the cameras switched on. Faint pulses of light drifted through the black water. At first, the research team believed the lights were caused by interference from the equipment. The lights kept moving in deliberate patterns. They glided in smooth paths. They pulsed at steady intervals. They wove through the water as if they were searching for one another. These lights did not come from broken machines. They came from living creatures. Bioluminescent creatures traveled through the water like small beacons in a space with no natural light. Some of the animals were recognizable from past deep-sea studies. Others had no match in any scientific record. Ribbon-shaped organisms glowed with blue and green trails that stretched behind their bodies. Unusual jellyfish with wide, umbrella-like tops pushed through the dense water with a steady pale glow. Even tiny drifting organisms lit up the screen in short flashes that resembled brief sparks of static. The deeper the vehicles moved, the more the creatures grew in size. Giant amphipods scurried across the seafloor. Some reached nearly a foot in length. Their bodies looked clear enough for the cameras to see their organs working inside them. These organs were built to survive pressure that could crush solid metal. Their jaws moved with slow, powerful motions that looked strong enough to crack anything softer than stone. The most shocking discovery did not come from the creatures. It came from the world that kept them alive. Cameras recorded rising plumes of warm water drifting upward from vents in the seafloor. These vents released water filled with minerals and heat. No one expected vents in this part of the trench because most believed the region lacked the volcanic features needed to create them. Yet the vents rose from the floor like open wounds in a frozen wasteland. They created pockets of warmth and chemical energy powerful enough to support entire communities of life. Around the vents, whole ecosystems formed without a single trace of sunlight. Bacteria fed on harsh chemicals and turned them into energy through a process called chemosynthesis. These bacteria became the base of a strange food chain. Tube worms grew in thick clusters. Vent crabs moved through the warm water in slow and patient lines. Unknown filter feeders clung to the rocks like colonies surrounding dangerous geysers. This discovery expanded the limits of what life can endure on Earth. It proved that living organisms can survive in places filled with heat, poison, darkness, and pressure, strong enough to crush most machines. It forced scientists to ask new questions about the possibility of life in distant places beyond Earth. If life could survive at the bottom of this violent trench, then life might also endure under the ice of moons like Europa or Enceladus. The trench did not stop at this revelation. The deeper the exploration went, the stranger everything became. Flickers of light appeared and vanished without clear cause. Instruments picked up sudden glitches and distortions. The seafloor shifted in ways that made the research team uneasy. The environment began to reveal signs of forces that reached far beyond biology. Those forces would soon lead scientists to the most baffling anomaly ever recorded on Earth, an anomaly that defied the rules of gravity itself. The gravity that vanished. Gravity is one of the few forces that is expected to behave in a steady and predictable way. It can change slightly depending on the shape of the land or the type of rock below the surface, but those changes are usually very small. This is why the readings above the Puerto Rico Trench shocked every researcher who saw them. Instruments showed a massive drop in gravitational pull. The pull measured close to 380 milligauss lower than expected. This became the largest decrease ever recorded on Earth. It felt as if the planet had lost part of its normal force in one specific area. Many scientists described it as a sign that something was missing beneath the surface. The first explanation focused on the idea of a very thin crust. In this region, one tectonic plate slides under another. When this happens, the sinking plate stretches and thins. Thin crust usually means less dense rock. Less dense rock produces a weaker gravitational pull. This seemed like a simple answer at first. The problem appeared when the numbers did not match. The crust would have needed to be far thinner than any known subduction system to create a drop this large. Further research showed that the trench was packed with millions of years of low-density sediments. These sediments should have reduced the gravitational pull even more, yet the measurements still did not match. The difference remained too large, too deep, and too tightly focused in one area. This suggested that a second hidden cause was at work. The cause might involve unusual conditions in the mantle. It might involve hidden structures beneath the crust that had never been mapped. The anomaly also affected how the trench behaved. Areas with large drops in gravitational pull often experience strange and unpredictable seismic activity. The Puerto Rico Trench already showed silent tension buildups and sudden releases of energy. The weakened gravitational field might even change how water moves above the trench. It might alter deep currents that travel across the Caribbean. Despite many attempts, none of the explanations solved the puzzle completely. Some scientists believed there was a deep structural void below the trench. A void is a region where density drops far lower than expected. Other scientists suspected unknown minerals or rock formations. A smaller group considered ideas that felt unusual and uncomfortable. They explored these ideas only because every normal explanation failed to fit the data. The anomaly made the researchers uneasy. It suggested that the trench might connect to a larger system hidden beneath the Atlantic. This system might be older, bigger, and more complex than anyone had imagined. If gravity could behave in such a strange way here, then other forces might also be shifting far below the surface. This fear grew stronger when the Alvin submersible returned for new deep dives with upgraded equipment. The trench had one more secret waiting. This last secret connected geology and biology and human activity into a single new problem that felt far more disturbing than anything discovered before. The next discovery proved that the trench did not hold only ancient mysteries. It held threats that were unfolding in the present moment. The 21,000-foot descent that changed everything. When the upgraded Alvin submersible descended more than 21,000 feet into the Puerto Rico Trench, the research team expected clearer images of vents and new rock formations. They believed the improved equipment would simply confirm what earlier missions had already hinted at. Instead, Alvin revealed a world that looked far more active and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The deeper the submersible traveled, the more the seafloor appeared freshly disturbed. Long streaks of loose sediment covered the steep slopes. Piles of unstable rock looked as if they had collapsed only hours before the dive. Nothing about the terrain appeared settled. The entire environment looked tense, as if it were waiting for the next violent shift. The hydrothermal vents at these deeper levels added to the alarm. Some vents had grown strange new chimneys that branched in irregular patterns. These structures did not match any known formations in other deep ocean regions. Several vents released plumes that bent and curved in unnatural ways. The water appeared to be pushed by hidden currents that cameras could not detect. These twisting plumes suggested that the ground beneath the trench was still reshaping itself. The activity felt constant and unpredictable. One major shift could destroy entire sections of the seafloor in an instant. The biologists on board felt shocked by what the cameras captured. They expected to see creatures shaped by extreme pressure, but they did not expect such a wide range of life. Unusual extremophiles gathered around the vents. Some clung to the rock with thin limbs that moved like slow and delicate fingers. Others expanded and tightened their bodies in long, rhythmic cycles. These movements helped them survive pressure strong enough to crush most forms of life. The deeper Alvin moved, the stranger the creatures became. Some animals moved with sudden bursts of speed and vanished the moment the lights touched them. Others hovered far from the cameras and glowed with a faint light that seemed to react to the submersible. The mission also uncovered a truth that came from the surface world. Scattered among the strange terrain were pieces of plastic, broken metal, and bits of glass. Human debris had reached the deepest known part of the Atlantic. This debris posed a direct threat to the animals and bacteria living near the vents. It also raised a more unsettling question. If human waste could reach this remote place, what else could it disturb? What changes could it trigger in a world that had never been meant to interact with human activity? The deeper Alvin traveled, the more the team realized that the trench was a fragile environment, already feeling the influence of the surface. The idea that this place had remained untouched was no longer true. Something delicate and ancient was being disrupted. Even this troubling discovery was not the final shock. The deepest dives recorded strange readings from the instruments. The equipment detected pulses that did not match known natural patterns. It picked up faint signals that repeated in uneven rhythms. Those faint signals pulled researchers toward the final and most disturbing question: what exactly is alive in the deepest shadows of the trench? Signals from the dark zone. The first unusual signal appeared as a faint blip on the instruments. The crew of Alvin believed it was an error because they did not expect anything unusual at that depth. A deep and low sound echoed through the trench. It repeated with a steady rhythm that did not match the movement of rock. It also did not match the sound patterns of whales. Minutes passed and the pulse returned. Each pulse caused a slight shift in the nearby currents. The shifts felt as if a large mass had moved through the water. Then the cameras recorded movement. This was not the soft drifting glow of tiny organisms. This was a far larger shape moving just beyond the reach of the lights. It moved with slow and steady control. It did not drift in the chaotic way that many deep-sea animals do. The crew tried to follow it with the cameras. Each time the cameras turned toward the movement, the lights struck only empty darkness. The audio sensors recorded strange groans and long vibrations. None matched known animals or known geological sounds. The trench produced noises that did not belong to any cataloged source. It felt as if the trench itself had begun to communicate in a form that no one understood. During one part of the dive, a steady glow appeared below the submersible. The shine did not resemble the soft light made by known bioluminescent creatures. This glow stayed even and clear. It appeared almost mechanical because it did not flicker or pulse. Before the cameras could focus on it, the glow disappeared. The team on the surface began long debates. Some believed it was a deep-sea organism that had developed a new method of producing light. Others believed it could be a geological or chemical event that scientists had not yet studied. The strange signals continued as Alvin reached the deepest planned survey point. Sonar detected a mass that moved in slow and uneven patterns. The movement was too controlled to be random. It was also too unpredictable to match known machines. The crew considered staying longer. Growing instability in the trench walls forced them to begin an early ascent. Later study of the recordings added another layer of confusion. The deep pulses captured during the dive did not match any known biological sound. They did not match any recorded tectonic activity. The frequency of the pulses belonged to a range rarely produced by natural processes. The scientific community divided quickly. Many believed these signals pointed to a deep-sea species that had never been observed. They believed it could communicate in a way that no human tools had documented before. Others believed the trench was creating a natural but unknown force that experts had not learned how to interpret. Nevertheless, every group agreed on one conclusion. A powerful and active presence lived in the deepest shadows of the Puerto Rico Trench. And now, the world faces an urgent question: whether we should keep exploring the trench at all. Should we keep going? The Puerto Rico Trench now stands as one of the most mysterious and dangerous places on the planet. Every mission has revealed information strong enough to reshape major fields of science. The strange organisms living near the vents have shown new ways that life can survive. The vents themselves display chemical reactions that may copy conditions from the earliest days of Earth. The massive gravity drop challenges long-held ideas about the structure of the planet. The deep signals recorded by Alvin raise questions that stretch far beyond normal deep ocean research. Each discovery has expanded our understanding, yet each one has also opened new concerns. These discoveries come with serious risks. The geology of the trench is unstable. One sudden shift in the rock could release a landslide or earthquake with no warning. A submersible that travels too deep could be caught in a collapse that cannot be escaped. The fresh sediment marks seen during Alvin's dives show that the trench has shifted recently. This means future missions may face even more danger than the earlier ones. There is also a growing concern for the fragile life that exists at the bottom of the trench. Human exploration introduces bright lights and strong vibrations. Equipment stirs sediment and sends new disturbances into an environment that has remained untouched for millions of years. The pieces of plastic and metal found at 21,000 feet show that human influence has already reached the deepest part of the Atlantic. More missions could increase that damage and risk harming creatures that depend on the stability and darkness of their environment. The most unsettling question comes from the strange signals recorded on the final dives. If an unknown form of life is moving at the deepest point of the trench, then our presence may already be noticed. We do not know whether this presence is delicate and vulnerable or strong and territorial. Perhaps the better question is whether we are ready for what we might find. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Kindly subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos.